in addition to your drive, your ability to put in the work, like your circle, your team will determine more about your altitude and your success than anything else.
May I have your attention, please?
You're my leader.
Now listening to
Clear the Mechanism.
The Robby Rose Show.
The Robby Rose Show.
Oh, what up, guys? My name's Robby Rowland, the host of the show you're listening to, which is called The Robby Rose Show. I'm really not trying to be conceited with that title, but it just kind of came off the tongue, and I like it. Anyways, I hope your guys' day is going better, a little bit better than mine. I went to the gym, rode a bike to the gym. It's about 6-7 miles away. And parked my bike at the gym, and when I got done at the gym, I went to ride my bike home, and my back tire was popped, like completely flat. So I had to walk 7 miles back home. Not asking for any pity, just hope your guys' day is going better than that. Anyways, you're listening to episode 35.2 with Jake Thompson. I like to call him the Compete Everyday guy. Actually, I've never called him that. That's what he told me people call him. So if you're a listener from the first episode, the first part of this episode, you've kind of gotten the idea of what Jake is about. And hopefully you've been super motivated and inspired just by listening to that first episode that you're going to hit that listen button or hit that download button or even hit that share button on your podcast. With that being said, if you're a new listener to this show, my name is Robby Rowland. You can follow me on Instagram at RobbyRoad12. I'm usually the most active on there. And go ahead and hit that subscribe button to this podcast. And if you really love me, love the voice, love the podcast, love the type of guests that I have on, go ahead and leave a review. I think it triggers something with the podcasting algorithms, and it increases popularity within the show. I don't know. I'm not smart enough to understand that type of stuff. Anyways, without any further rambling, I will say the following. If you are a listener that is interested in working with me on my online pitching optimization programming, let me know. If you are a podcast listener or an Instagram follower, I'm offering 20% off of any monthly program, which includes video analysis of the actual art of the throw that the athlete is doing, training protocols, pitch sequencing protocols, pitch designing, all of this which can be done through the use of phenomenal technology online. So again, without further ado, this is episode 35.2. If you're interested, again, in working with me, go ahead and shoot me a message in the Instagram DMs, and we can get started as soon as you do that. So I appreciate you guys for listening, and I hope you enjoy this episode, which consists of how can winning trick us, right? How can it trick us into thinking that we are essentially not process orientated? And we also elaborate a little bit on what does goal setting look like. We all talk about having goals that are so big and got to reach the sky. And if people aren't laughing at these goals, then we're not establishing big enough goals and dreams and whatnot. But how can that be dangerous? And then how can we take a step back and almost look at our goals as a stepping stone as far as short-term goals into our process of long-term goals. So we'll take a look at how to approach goal setting. We'll take a look at establishing your why, giving you a sense of understanding the reasoning behind everything that goes into what you're trying to do, and also having a plan, being very strategic in your just everyday life. And we talk about that process. We go into at the very end, and it's funny how I had this on September Accountability Month. We talk about surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals that are going to back you and motivate you and inspire you and give you any type of push into the right direction. surrounding yourself with good people. So hope you guys enjoy this podcast. Again, my name's Robby. Instagram's RobbyRow12. Hit me up. Love to chat, but appreciate you guys for listening, and I hope you enjoy this podcast. Episode 35.2 with Jake Thompson. This is the Robby Rowe Show.
How often can winning trick us into believing that we're great?
Oof.
I mean, it's the same coin. If you don't look at the lessons from victory, but leave the baggage of being full of yourself and believing you did it all, like how much is that going to bite you in the tail later? It's the same. It's two sides of the same coin, which is funny because in any sports game, you may look at the final scoreboard. Oh man, we won. I'm good. I don't need to work on this. I'm set. Whatever. When in all reality, like you might have won, but there was a ton of things you just, ball bounced this way, could have gone the other way. Like got a little lucky here and there. Like there's always something to build on.
Yeah. Let's dive into that, dude. Like, let's dive into I'm a big picture individual, right? So you talk about goals earlier. For me, it's establishing like these big picture goals and winning one game, even though I'm not going to do a podcast on how winning isn't like great. Obviously it's a goal, but how as individuals or as human beings, we have these big picture goals, and we need to set these goals in accordance to human growth or athletic growth or whatever. How do you kind of approach your goal setting?
Yeah. So a lot of times earlier in my life, I was too wrapped up with the outcome and not the process. Mm-hmm. But what I've learned the later in life, working with people, working with other sports psychologists and mental performance coaches, is that the process is what creates most of the outcomes. And if you can get better at embracing the process and getting better at the process, even if you fall short of the goal, it puts you light years away. And here's what I mean by that. For a lot of kids growing up, the goal is to make it to the majors. Mm-hmm. Most of those kids will never make it to the majors. There's some that do, but if the kid at an early age develops the process that they're going to create their own schedule, they're going to consistently weight train, they're going to consistently do the skills, they're consistently going to start doing the work in the mornings or in the evenings when no one is watching, they're going to become a really good baseball player. Mm-hmm. Whether that gets them all the way to the majors or not, time will tell. But what that does is that starts to instill in them characteristics and habits that bleed over into other areas of their life. Mm-hmm. If you become that individual that is used to putting in the work when no one's watching, if you're the one that's disciplined enough to get up and train and do things without an audience, without the applause, then you're more than likely going to be able to do those same things in life, which comes for all of us the day we have to hang up our cleats, mm-hmm. because it's coming for everyone. And the guys that have built the process and understand embracing the process of getting better, and that it's similar to a sculptor carving out this block of stone into a masterpiece. It's done one chip at a time, one day at a time, just little by little. That's how you ultimately compete against yourself to be your best self. It's not about me trying to be like other people. There are other people out there that do some things incredibly successful that I want to learn how they did it, but it doesn't mean I need to compete with them, be with them. I need to work on chiseling my frame, my story, because that's my process. And so from a goal setting standpoint, it's taking action every single day to get you closer to the goal. So you might have a goal that's 5 years away. You might have a goal that's 2 years away. You might have a goal that's 3 months away. The way we try to look at it is there's a book by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan called The One Thing, and it breaks this down beautifully of what's your 10-year goal, what's your 5-year goal, what's your 1-year goal, what's your 6-month goal. It works it all the way backwards because for a lot of us, we set a 10-year goal, but we don't have a clue how to get there. Yeah. We don't even have the slightest what the steps are. And the way Jay and Gary do it is, all right, what's one thing I can do today to get closer to that 6-month goal? Because once I get to that 6-month goal, I'm looking at another 6-month goal that's going to get me closer to that 10-year goal. And so you start working it a day at a time. And so it's literally a process. It's the process of writing a book. You don't sit down and write a book. You sit down and write 1,000 words a day or 2,000 words a day. Right. And every day you write the words. You write the words. And within 3 or 4 months, you've got a book written. But it's the process of doing the work every single day that sucks. It's not glorious. You don't have an audience. Nobody's cheering for you. Nobody wants to do the work or the process, which is why most people don't ever hit their goals.
So how can we find that will to do that?
The will to do that really comes in twofold. So the first is going to be the why. Like, what is your driving factor? Not what do you want to do, but why do you want to do it? Why does this matter? Who is this impacting? Is this something about you, or is this something bigger than you? Are you trying to do something because you want to make an impact somewhere else? So understanding your why is a huge factor in that. But the second big piece is not as much focusing on the goal as it is the process. Mm-hmm. It's literally creating a daily process that allows you to just focus on that. Most people lose the motivation. They become demotivated. They become discouraged because the goal is too far away. The goal is too big. And when you start doing work for a day or two, you become discouraged because you have so much farther to go. You're trying to lose 100 pounds of weight, but you've only lost 5. Mm-hmm. And you're like, well, that's 95. That's too much. I should just give up. And that is what most people do. The successful people, though, they have a daily process that is all they focus on is the process. It's running a marathon training program. Mm-hmm. Your goal is the marathon. You don't think about running 26 miles when you take off out of the gate. You look at the training plan. You say, oh, today I'm running a mile and I'm walking a mile. And that's all you focus on. And the next day it's like, oh, stretching, and then I'm running a mile and a half, and that's all you're focused on. And so when you're only focused on the micro goals, it's much easier. I talk about this in one of my keynotes. When I went to Vegas to run my first half marathon, I set a couple of goals for the race, and about 2 miles into the race, I was screwed. Like I had not trained for the race well, or really at all. My side was hurting. My feet were hurting. I'm having that inner dialogue of, should I just go into the blackjack tables and play and sneak out later? It's like, how can I get out of this? And during the course of that, I started playing a game that I've always played when I run because I hate to run. It's like one of my least favorite things to do.
Word.
And I mean, it's miserable to me. But what I did is I started picking out a runner a little ways ahead of me, and I'd chase them. And then I would pick someone else out and I would chase them. And again and again and again. I stopped thinking about how far I had to go for the half marathon. I stopped thinking about the 11 miles I had left and only started worrying about the next person just a little ways ahead of me. The reason that worked is because every time I caught that person, I got a positive boost of dopamine. I got a positive boost of motivation because I accomplished something. And so then I was motivated to catch the next person. And when I got tired and my head started to drift a little bit about, man, I wonder how far I have to go, I would shift my eyes back to say, where's the next person? Chase the next person. And so when we set these goals, we have to set small micro goals all along the way. We have to create that daily process to know that, hey, my goal today is to write 1,000 words, and I'm going to write 1,000 words. And then tomorrow, I'll worry about another 1,000 words, but I won't worry about it until tomorrow. And so if you have that, it's having the off-season training plan. Like the games are so far away at that point, but you just got to go all in on that day's workout, that day's training plan, and not worrying about what you've got 3 days from now, 5 days from now, 2 months from now.
Yeah, 100%, man. It's
because when you get there, when you do that goal, you get that hit of motivation, you get that hit of dopamine, and you're more motivated to keep going.
Yeah, it's setting yourself up for success in the long run, right? I mean, that's another thing like I struggled with is because I was always so stubborn growing up that I would set these astronomical goals, right? Like almost unreachable, but I would do it because it was like, hey, look at my goals. Like I'm reaching for the sky, right? That's another misinterpretation of these goals where you see these memes on Instagram or whatever. And it's like, if people aren't laughing at your goals, they're not big enough, right? Which is fine. Like you should set big goals, but I'm on board, man, as far as you want to have that gratification of I'm going in the right direction. You need that self gratification, telling yourself that just keep on going. Like you're seeing the results. You got to keep on going. You said, go ahead.
I was going to say, I love that fact that you brought that up because it's great to have those massive goals. You want to have guys that have big goals, but you don't get it by talking about the big goals, by focusing on the big goals. You get it by focusing on the little small goals all along the way and doing the daily work.
Yep, it's big picture, man. It's big picture. It's process, and it's not the Joel Embiid process. It's actually we're just talking about the process. So you mentioned earlier, man, taking action, right? And I think my two favorite words right now are intentional and mindfulness. And I'm a real big advocate about having a plan. Right, we talk about having these goals. We talk about wanting to be in the big leagues, or we talk about wanting to start our own companies or whatnot. But we don't really know what's in between from the moment you decide those goals and then the byproduct or the end goal. So it's understanding like what is it going to take in between that, something that I can do each and every day. And I'm going to be intentional about the way that I go about my business. So what would you say to like a kid, an athlete, that doesn't really know what that chunk in between looks like? How can they set themselves up for success as far as determining what their plan should be?
So there's a couple of points I'll make that they can run with the one they want or feel is the best fit for them. There's never been a better time for a young athlete to learn this. And by saying that is social media has made networking and connections so much easier than it was 15 years ago.
Yeah. We wouldn't be talking right now if it wasn't.
No. I mean, I laugh about like when I was in high school, like it was slow dial up, Juno email. I would log like hours on there of doing fantasy baseball, fantasy basketball.
Then put it on your floppy disk.
Yeah, you're playing way back in the day. And so for kids, it's finding athletes who've done what you want to do. There's an athlete out there that's come from a situation similar to yours and finding out how they did what they want to do. And most athletes today, they're talking in their interviews, they're sharing stories on podcasts. There's so much content out there that there's ways to get connected or at least learn. You don't even have to talk to them directly. Just figure out what they did. Coaches. There's a million coaches out there that they're willing to learn. Like they coach because they love the game. And so finding someone to talk to, like this is never something you have to figure out on your own. You'll have to experience it and do the work and part of the process on your own. But there's so many people out there that just want to help other people that are hungry to do the work because most people don't want to do the work. And so if you reach out to coaches and say, hey, listen, here's what I'm doing. Here's what I'm trying to do. What's one piece of advice? What's one action step that would help me better this process? And if you reach out to 20 coaches and 10 give you back piece of advice, you have 10 action steps that you can take to put you in a better position. And here's the cool part with these coaches and any mentor person you reach out to, because they're going to be a lot like I am in this regard. If you reach out to me and say, what is one thing I can do to get better at X? And I give you that piece of advice, if you come back to me within 2 weeks, a week, a month, and say, hey, I did that, what's the next best step? What do I do next? I'm going to be more impressed that you did the work and came back for more than anything else, because most people are like, well, how do I do this? How would you recommend I do this? And I'm like, cool, check this out, read this book, let's talk then. Then they'll shoot me an email a month later and be like, hey, can we go grab coffee? I want to talk to you about X, Y, and Z. I'm like, oh, awesome. How was that? What'd you think about this? Oh, I haven't gotten around to it yet. Cool. I'm not interested in helping anymore. Like if you're not going to do the work,
right,
I'm not going to invest the time. So that's a huge one of finding people to ask questions, reach out to influencers, reach out to people that have done it, or reach out to people who have coached people who have done it, ask questions. The second is, this is something that I've done in business for the last 7 years. I don't necessarily know how to get to certain places in the business. All I can do is say, all right, here's where I want to go. What is one immediate thing I can do today to get me a step closer? I may not know where I need to be in 10 steps, but I just need to figure out what the next step is. Mm-hmm. Tomorrow, I'll worry about the next step. So if my goal is to own a t-shirt company, what's the first thing I can do? Well, first thing I can do is probably read a ton of Google websites about different ways to screen print t-shirts or print t-shirts, figure out how to do it. Then the next day I can figure out, all right, where do I source blanks? Cool. Where do I do a design? Okay. Then I can set up a Shopify store. Okay. So once I set up a Shopify store, I'm not really sure how to market it. Let me figure out how to do that first. So you're literally worrying about one step at a time. And so that's where a big piece of taking action comes in, because a lot of people say, well, I don't know how to get all the way there, so I'm not going to do anything. versus I know I can do one thing to get a little bit closer, so I'm going to do the one thing. Have you ever been injured in your career?
Oh, yeah, I'm injured right now.
Okay, so this is going to hit right home with you because I tore my Achilles about 14 months ago playing basketball. And
don't
for
tell me that.
dude, it's awful. For me, mentally, it was as much of a struggle as physically. I think any injury rehab process, it's more mental than physical.
Yeah.
And the mental side would hit me when I'd go to the gym because there are exercises I couldn't do. Or when I finally was walking again, my foot just didn't have the strength or the balance or anything. And I would get really frustrated. And so one day I was traveling and my foot just was not doing well traveling. And I was talking about how I was frustrated. And then I was like, I got to go just throw down a recorder. And so I recorded a podcast episode about it, pretty much self-talking to myself of saying like, you can complain about what you can't do and the things that you don't know to do, or I can do what I can until I get to do what I want. And so for a lot of people, that's the advice I have on taking action. Do what you can until you can do what you want. So figure out one thing you can do today, do that thing today. Then tomorrow figure out, okay, what's the next thing I can do? And then the next thing. And if you hit a wall, then you have resources and mentors and Google and so much different information, but you can always do the next thing.
Yeah.
For most people, they just think I can't do all of it, so I won't do any of it.
Yeah. It's so for me, I'm real big into the individuals like you surround yourself with, right?
Huge.
I mean, if you have a big goal, you want to surround yourself with like-minded individuals. You want to seek wise counsel on a lot of different avenues within your life, because I think you are kind of who you're a product of your environment, right? Like, I mean, that's the phrase.
Huge.
And do you want to speak a little bit about that?
I mean, that is what will determine more, in addition to your drive, your ability to put in the work, like your circle, your team will determine more about your altitude and your success than anything else. And I'm not necessarily speaking to your teammates at school or on the team. I'm talking about the actual teammates you run life with, like your friends that you're spending outside. Jim Rohn talks about you're the sum of the 5 people, or the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Mm-hmm. And that is more true than anything else, because those are the people that are going to, if right, they're going to challenge you when you aren't meeting your potential or rising up. They're going to encourage you to get back up when you've been knocked down, and they're going to hold you to a standard. If they're a bunch of yes men or yes women that always agree with you, that are encouraging you to go, let's skip practice early, let's go party this weekend, or you don't need to go work out. Like, those are the type of individuals. Do they really have your best interest at heart? And they honestly don't. And so who you surround yourself with is a game changer in so many different ways. And so I always tell people, you need to find people that are ahead of you in life. You need to find people either ahead of you in what you want to do. Perhaps you have a person that you go see once a month for coffee that financially is in a position you want to be in. Mm-hmm. Athletically, they're doing something you want to do. Maybe relationally, maybe they have a great family life and you're like, that's what I want to aspire to one day, of having a family, and I want to have a family in that vein. Go spend time with those people, learn from those people, but really be cautious about who you hang out with, who you associate with, because you're not, as much as you may want to, be able to lift up and carry people that are lacking focus, lacking discipline, want to go play, want to go party, don't care about putting in the work, don't care about embracing the process. That's okay for them. But if you're serious about getting better, if you're serious about being a competitor, you've got to be able to cut that cord, because they're going to drag you down 9 times out of 10 versus you lifting them up.
Yeah, and that could actually potentially lift them up more than anything else that you could probably do, is saying, be super real, right? Like, just be authentic and be like, look, dude, like, we're friends, but I have a vision, I have a mindset that isn't matching with what you're trying to do, and it's being an adult in that situation. And I think that's a big thing in today's day and age, man. We kind of surround ourselves with just people, just to surround ourselves with people, right? Like, there's no really intent behind it. And then just go ahead.
And I was going to say, many an athlete career has been cut short because they chose to hang with the wrong circle and then made the poor decisions that ultimately ended their work ethic, their career, and anything else, versus the guys that are smart about who they surround themselves with and make the right choices because they're being held to a higher standard.
Yeah, and that's a good segue. So this will be my last kind of talking point is accountability, and I have to throw this in there because I'm trying to spread a Instagram worldwide movement right now. Hashtag September Accountability. I think with social media we have such a cool platform to hold people accountable, right? Like we can shout people out, we can tag people in certain posts to give them a certain amount of motivation or inspire people or whatever it is. So I try to dedicate a month to, doing a video or a post a day saying like, hey, are you getting after it today? Talk about how important it is to have individuals or mentors that are making sure that you're staying accountable for what you need to do, and the fine line between getting up in someone's rear and freaking saying like, yo, like if this is your goal, then you got to freaking work and you got to act like it. Because I think, again, talking about society, and like I'm not trying to disrespect anyone, but we live in a softer society, right, where people are kind of afraid to pollute or ruin friendships that they don't want to hold people accountable anymore. The accountability thing is kind of just backed off, and now it's on everyone else. Everyone's kind of on an island by themselves. So talk about a little bit about accountability and how we can hold people accountable.
Yeah, funny enough, I actually did my first video blog on the subject because accountability and deadlines are the two of the most critical pieces in pursuing a goal. You have the micro goals that help you get there and keep that motivation throughout the process, but the accountability and the deadlines are really what make the engine run. And I say that because if you're surrounding with the right people, they're not only going to want to hold you to that high standard, but you're going to want to invest in that relationship where you don't let them down. And the example I used is when I get up, when I have early morning wake ups, I used to be just notorious for rolling out of bed at 4:45, 5 a.m., hitting the gym. I had two buddies that we would work out together. We would do CrossFit together or go run. And so I always knew they would be there and they would always know I would be there. So we were all accountable to each other. We enjoyed the competition, fun play of working out together, but we held each other to that standard. Well, one of the guys moved. One of the guys got hurt. We stopped kind of going to the same gym, and the accountability dropped off. The consistency working out dropped off because we could talk, but we weren't there holding each other accountable. We weren't checking in every single day. Hey, are you doing the work? Hey, are you doing the work? And so for me, especially later in life and business, mastermind groups, working with accountability groups, it's incredibly crucial. It's why, Alcoholics Anonymous and Substance Abusers Anonymous are so big in accountability. Because if you have someone there with you, they're going to be someone you can lean on, but they're also going to be someone you don't want to let down. And it's always good to have that third perspective. And so whoever that could be in this, whoever you are listening to this, find someone that's going to hold you accountable and ask them to. And here's the thing that will help you determine the circle that we just talked about in your teammates. If they're not willing to hold you to a standard and to hold you accountable to something you want to go pursue, they don't need to be in your circle. And so that's a really good way to determine if I'm hanging out with the right people. If I go ask my buddy, hey, listen, I'm training, I want to go play, I want to make it to the pros. I'm committed to going to work out and do training or rehab every single morning at 5:30 a.m. Will you hold me accountable in this? You don't have to come work out with me, but I need you to text me every day, check in with me every day, make sure I'm doing this. And if the person's like, I'll do that, and then they don't, cut them because they don't have your best interest at heart. They don't care about your success. If they're willing to step up and say, yeah, I got you, and every morning they're going to text you, and some days they may show up, then they're going to be someone that you want to surround yourself with because they're going to be making sure you hold yourself to that standard. Accountability is what allows you to do the daily process because that's going to be the person that checks in on you and says, hey, did you write the 500 words today? Did you go work out today? Did you get the reading done today or the work done today you said you were going to? And if not, why not?
Dude, you're firing me up, man.
Dude,
I already
there
trained
is a
today. I
reason.
gotta go again.
Dude, there's reason. It's funny, but like I laugh. That's why people pay personal trainers. Like most people know how to do the work.
Yeah.
But when you pay 15, 20 bucks a month to a gym, you don't go because you don't think about it. But when you invest $100 a session and somebody's waiting on you to hold you accountable, you are there. It's why people pay mental performance coaches and life coaches and business coaches. A lot of times we know the work. There's definitely instances where we need a third party perspective to help us give a neutral perspective or to help us figure something out. But a lot of times in life, it's people and coaches. We help people get out of their own way. We hold them accountable and we get them out of their own way. And when you pay for that stuff, you're investing dollars and you're more likely to get it done.
So what do you say to the kids that will call me up or DM me and be like, I don't have any like-minded individuals around me?
So one of the cool things that these kids also have is social media.
Oh, yeah.
And so, I mean, Instagram is notorious with the hashtags. Notorious for having hashtags because you can search other people posting with the same hashtags you've got. If ball is life, scroll it, see who's posting, shoot people messages. I mean, I just made a comment, made a note earlier today because I've been training for a half marathon coming up in November. I was like, man, I'm going to start something where every morning I'm going to be posting at 5:15 a.m. live on Instagram. I'm going to make a post and say, hey, where's my 5 a.m. crew at? This is my accountability. I'm holding myself accountable, but I'm doing it in a public forum. If people want to join in and give a shout back or send a video back, then we can start something. But I don't need them checking on me posting on social media and saying, hey, I'm going to do this every day. Those people following me and watching me are going to start asking if 4 days down the road I just stop or a week down the road I just quit.
You lose credibility.
Hey, you lose your credibility. And so if you're struggling to find someone to hold you accountable, one, go on social. See who's out there that is posting similar stuff, like similar things, and just reach out. Say, hey, listen, I'm starting a small group. I want to have a small accountability group. And if you had 4 or 5 athletes in a private DM on Instagram and all you guys are just checking in on each other, who got in work today, and you're just keeping it between y'all, awesome. If you want to make it more public, man, make a post every single day. This is my accountability. I know people that have done it when they're writing a book. I know guys that have done it when they're going to the gym trying to get back in shape. They literally will post a picture every day as their accountability to themselves publicly that I'm putting in the work.
Dude, for those of you who listening, at Robby Rowe 12, I got you guys. I got you. I got what a hashtag September accountability. Hey Jake, I promise I didn't take your idea, dude. I promise, dude. That is crazy. Like-minded individuals, though, dog. That's what I'm saying.
Dude, man, it's we want others, and it's great because I'm all about community and building community, and I think that's a game changer for so many people. But honestly, like if you're committed to doing it, if you're committed to getting better, just publicly put yourself out there. Do it as your check-in. It holds you accountability, and you're going to find that other people are going to want to jump in with you. Other people are going to want to get involved. Yeah. And if you're already reaching out to people, man, just find 4 to 5 folks, get a private DM, say, hey, we're all committed to getting better. If you're committed to getting better, let's have a daily check-in and go from there.
Yeah. Yeah. I got about like 120 something people in my accountability group right now.
Dude.
Join in every day, man. I'll make sure to tag you in tonight's post.
Do that, man. I can't recommend it enough. Be accountable to yourself, and then find somebody else, find other people to hold you accountable, because that may very well solve your problem of who you're running life with, who you're spending time with, and what kind of great teammates you're surrounding yourself with.
It's huge, man. So I want to be respectful of your time, Jake, but in closing, man, where can my listeners find you?
Yeah, easy. So 2 ways to connect with me. CompeteEveryday.com. Compete every day on every social media platform. We are most active on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. My social media, I am most active on YouTube and on Instagram. Instagram is Life is Worth Competing For. If you go there, all my contact info to my website. Everything else is there. But, man, shoot me a note. If you need accountability, man, I will jump in with the September group. I will jump in on the hashtag.
Let's go.
And if you have any questions based on anything I shared today, let me know. I've got books. I got resources I can direct you to that people have written, or videos that can expound upon it a lot more.
I got you, man. Well, again, I appreciate you coming on, dude. I appreciate your time. And sorry we went a little bit longer, man, but just some really good stuff.
Dude, this is fun.
Yeah, man. I'll sign you off. All right, guys. That's another episode of The Robby Rowe Show. Do me a favor, if you liked the episode, or even if you didn't like it, go ahead and leave me a review on whatever platform you're listening to. Not only does it help me out with popularity on my show, but it also helps me out as a host of this podcast. Sometimes I don't know if I'm getting better or if I'm getting worse, and I need y'all's opinions. So go ahead and leave a review and let me know what you thought. So again, thank you so much. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Until next time, Robby Rowland, The Robby Rowe Show. Your boy's out. Later.